Alright, hello there everyone, this is Kingdom. Today I'm bringing to you the first in a new series that I'm working on. This is the Ultimate Theorycrafted Guide. It's a guide to numbers and other stuff, crazy things like active, passive abilities, ability effects, hero builds, item builds, anything you want that involves a lot of math and a lot of thinking, and not quite as much in-game application. So I'm not going to tell you how to use skills, I'm not going to tell you how to set up a gank. Instead, I'm going to tell you item choices, skill build choices, item damage, all kinds of stuff like that. So, fun stuff, right? Stuff that takes a lot of thinking and a lot of time in Microsoft Excel. This probably took 4 hours in Microsoft Excel. Just kind of as an example, this is the first entry into the guide. This is Chaos Knight's item build. I've seen Chaos Knight get a lot of play recently, both in pro scene and a fair amount in pubs. And I've never seen him item built the same way twice, so I thought I'd go ahead and make a consolidated guide. And I was going to talk about four parts of the game for Chaos Knight's item build. The first is his boot choice. Second is a mid-game item. Instead of going straight to a heavy DPS item, like for instance, whereas an anti-mage would go straight for Battle Fury, Chaos Knights tend to go for a kind of mid-tier 2,000-3,000 gold item first, then into a late-game item. So talk about a mid-game item, then a late-game item, and finally I'll give you a couple examples of full late-game farm builds. Then a couple things to consider in thinking about what items are useful and which ones you should buy. First of all is your damage per second. Chaos Knight is a ganking or a carry hero who needs to deal as much damage as possible. That damage is physical, so his item build needs to give DPS. Second thing is his EHP. You kind of expect Chaos Knight to be tanky and hard to bring down, and as a strength hero, he really needs to command a lot of presence in a team fight, and also he needs to survive long enough to be able to, say, dive a tower to get a kill, or last in a team fight to deal damage. So EHP is very important. HP in general is important, but physical EHP is what you can really do with an item build. Movement speed is also very important on Chaos Knight. He has a high base movement speed, so let's make his already awesome things more awesome. And also, when you're ganking with Chaos Knight, you need to be able to get two ganks quickly, and you also need to be able to chase effectively. Chaos Knight is a very good chasing hero with his skill set, and to augment that, some movement speed can be very, very nice. And then finally, mana pool is an important thing to consider in your item choices, especially in the mid-game, because you need the mana to be able to cast his spells. So, with those things in mind, let's go ahead and start by taking a look at Chaos Knight's boot choice. So there's really only two boots that I would consider on Chaos Knight. I would not buy any of the other ones. These are what I see most people buying. So your Phase or your Treads. Treads are more popular than Phase, but let's go ahead and take a look at them and see what both of them can do. Your Treads will give you 30 increased attack speed, 8 to any single stat, 55 movement speed, and the ability to toggle back and forth which stat is upgraded. Your Phase, on the other hand, is 50 gold cheaper, gives you 24 damage, 55 movement speed, and the active ability to pass through units, and also an extra 16% movement speed for 4 seconds. Alright, so with that in mind, taking a look quickly at this chart that I've got down here, gives you DPS, EHP, and movement speed comparisons for all these two items. And you get, so EHP is much higher on your Treads because it gives you HP, whereas Phase Boots does not. It also gives you slightly higher DPS because it gives you increased attack speed as well as 8 to strength when you're attacking things. So a little bit of damage and a fair amount of attack speed. Attack speed is almost universally more important than damage when it comes to DPS, except for a couple exceptions on certain heroes, especially crit heroes. Now, also keep in mind that Chaos Knight is an illusion-based hero. His ultimate Phantasm gives him illusions, and so it is important when you're playing Chaos Knight to max his stats as much as possible. So the stats from Power Treads are very important over Phase. However, Phase does have its uses on Chaos Knight, even though I think Treads are better in, I'd say, 80% of games. If you're chasing as Chaos Knight, or if, say, you're against a Broodmother or a Furion who has a lot of units, Phase Boot's active ability can be absolutely essential in catching up, getting into range for a Reality Rift or a Chaos Bolt, and actually finishing off a gank or a kill. It also makes him slightly less able to be kited, and moreover, it gives that 24 damage, gives him higher crits on his hero, not on his illusions. So your hero will crit higher with Phase Boots than with Treads. So with that in mind, I would say that if you're in a side lane, I would take Treads. But if you plan on ganking a lot, or if you're in the mid lane, say with like a Chaos Knight, Ancient Ambition dual lane, which you see sometimes in some pro games and clan war games, I would go phase boots because the movement speed is very helpful in getting from lane to lane, and it also will make you more effective in the mid game ganking stage. So, that in mind, let's go ahead and move to talk about your mid game item choice. So, these are the two items that I see people going for rushing in the mid game. I'm assuming you're going to pick up a wand, so after that and boots, you would go for this mid game item. I see drums and I see Armlet a lot. So these two items, drum is about 1,000 gold cheaper. It gives you +9 to all stats, +3 damage, and an aura for you and your team, which gives 5% movement speed, 5% attack speed, and on top of that, 4 charges, which when you expend them can give you an additional +10% movement speed and attack speed. So, good attack speed, good move speed, some nice stats, which are very important, and a little bit of damage, not bad. Also, Armlet, okay, gives you +9 damage, 15 attack speed, 5 armor, 8 HP regen per second all the time, and then when it's activated, it gives you an extra 40 damage, 25 strength, 25 increased attack speed, and a net 32 HP degen per second. So that means that while your armlet is on, you get a lot of damage, a lot of HP, and a degen, which is okay, it doesn't matter. Also, keep in mind that when your armlet is activated and you use your ultimate illusions will have the bonus 25 strength, but will not have the degen. So if you have an armlet, always use it before you pop your ultimate. Now, these two items, obviously drums are cheaper. They also give you significantly more mana, as you can see from the chart, and they give you more move speed, however, they do not give you as much attack speed, and they do not give you as much damage. So in terms of DPS and effective HP, Armlet is far superior, as you can tell here. And so if I was going for a carry build, Chaos Knight, and I wasn't going to do a lot of ganking, and therefore didn't need as much mana, if I was just going to, like, say, sit in lane and farm, Armlet is extremely important. Then, say, however, if you were going to roam and gank with Chaos Knight more, or if you wanted to focus more on mid-game instead of late-game, I think drums are also an excellent viable option. Between these two, I can't really say I have a favorite. I build them both with pretty fair frequency. I find the move speed from drums on a max move speed build pretty essential, and having an extra Reality Rift or a Chaos Bolt is really important in teamfights. So I think either item here is viable. It depends on what you want to do into the late game. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and talk about late game items. I've got 5 items here as first late game item to build. So after you finish your boot and your mid game item and your wand, obviously you would go into one of these 5 items. And I ran out of space on my image, so I didn't list all of their stats, but you guys know what they do. So let's go ahead and talk about each one of them and their value first before I compare the chart information. You've got your Saint Ignatius, which is one of the cheaper items here, and it has excellent move speed, attack speed, it gives good stats for your illusions, it gives maim, which is very important when you're chasing and killing people. Greater maim is probably one of the best proccing slows in the game, best lockdown items for an attack speed hero. It also gives you fairly good damage it's about, I think, +31 damage total, and it's a very strong item. It's got nice cheap components so that you can build it up easily. Mantis Style is probably, of the late game items that I ran numbers for, it is the highest DPS item because of its illusions. It also gives you a fair amount of movement speed. It gives you some mana too, which is important in your casting of spells and stuff like that. And you can dodge spells and stuns and stuff like that with Manta Split. It also will take off silence and a couple other buffs. So very good item. Heart is another really good item to build first. Gives you a lot of tankiness as well as some damage. And then if you're roaming and ganking, what Heart can do is regen HP for you outside of fights between ganks. So it allows you to go to the fountain less and gank more. It's the priciest item on this list though, so it is kind of expensive, and its build up is not very fun. Saving 3,200 for a Reaver is never fun in any game whatsoever. So, but it's definitely gives the most raw tank out of any of these items. It doesn't give the highest HP. If you're against a lineup with a couple nukes, then I would probably pick Heart. BKB, while not giving as much damage or anything else really as any of the other items, it does give you this really, really important, gives you an extremely important bonus to magic immunity. It makes you magic immune for a couple seconds. And that couple seconds is absolutely critical if you're against, say, a Tide Hunter, an Invoker, a Jakiro, some lineup with insane stuns and insane AoE magic damage. That BKB will save your life again and again, and it will allow you to gank more effectively. It will allow you to stay alive in team fights. It'll allow you to not get stunned and not get killed. BKB is a very important item, but only in certain lineups. I wouldn't take it as a priority item. Then, finally, Heaven's Halberd. Not many people build this, but I think that it's a very good item on Chaos Knight. It gives Maim again for chasing. It gives damage and strength, so it gives you a fair amount of tank and a fair amount of damage. It gives you also evasion, so the highest EHP of any item that I'm examining here. So whereas I would not pick this up against all lineups, if there's like, say, a Phantom Lancer, a Phantom Assassin, Templar Assassin, a hero like that who's just going to burst you down with physical DPS, then this Heaven's Halberd early can be extremely helpful because the active will shut that hero down, and it will also make you tankier against them on the whole. So let's go ahead and take a look at these graphs here. Movement speed, obviously, movement speed, Saint Yasha is actually, let's do clockwise from top left. DPS first. DPS Manta is the highest DPS item. That's because it gives you extra illusions, which deal more damage. It's great. After that, Heart and SNY are about the same. Halberd's a little bit less than that, and BKB is the lowest. In terms of EHP, Halberd is obviously the highest on the top right. Heart is the next one because it gives you the most tank, and after that, they're pretty much even. BKB, again, not giving you quite as much. Movement speed, SNY is the most, Manta is the second, and then after that, they're pretty even on the whole. And then in terms of mana, Manta is the only one that noticeably gives you more mana than the other ones. It gives you 10 stats from its ultimate orb component. Other than that, these don't give any mana bonuses. So when you're playing Chaos Knight, you need to get your mana in the mid game and not in the late game. Cool. So once you've built your first late game item, you're going to continue then into farming a couple more items probably as the game goes on. If it goes past, say, 25-30 minutes, you're going to need to have another item by the end of the game. And what I've done here is, instead of saying which items you should get, I have laid out a couple possible builds and a couple options of items that you can pick up. So here you'll see 3 different builds that I've come up with. This each one is 5 items and then a slot for a TP scroll, right? So this is a 40-50 minute game. Obviously later than that you would swap out your TP scroll and your boots for a BOT and get another tier 4 item. But this is like what you would farm in a normal game without hard farming like freaking ZSMJ. Alright, so as you can see, 3 builds: max DPS, max movement speed, max tank build. On your max DPS build, Manta Style obviously gives you a ton. Armlet for that toggling and massive DPS. Heart for survivability as well as more damage. It gives you plus 40 strength, which is plus 40 damage. Cool, right? And then MKB, first of all, to make sure that annoying heroes like Void and Phantom Assassin can't dodge you, or Brewmaster is another one. And it also gives you plus 88 damage, which is great, and it gives you a little bit of attack speed, which means you will proc more crits and proc more mini bashes. So really cool item on the whole. Then, so that build is obviously just straight up max DPS. Second one is move speed, max move speed build. If you're roaming and ganking, these 3 mid-game items give you max move speed, and then then you can keep them into the late game and still do a lot of damage, have some pretty good tank, as well as max move speed, which is always viable all the time. Assault Cuirass is on there because minus armor is really important, because Chaos Knight is physical damage. More physical damage means more damage. It's great. And it also gives him a little bit of tankiness and lots of attack speed, which applies to some of the attack speed applies to his illusions also, because it's an aura based attack speed. So cool item. Max tank item, the max tank build rather, is max tank, maximizing that EHP against either physical or magical damage. Obviously, BKB to make you magic immune is very important for tanking. You can't tank if you're stunned. Heaven's Halberd's in there in case you're against a Phantom Assassin or a Phantom Lancer or Templar Assassin. One of those heroes that focuses on right-click attacks. If it's more of a magic damage lineup that you're against, I would swap out that Heaven's Halberd for a Heart. But this Halberd is in there just because it's a cool item. People should buy it. Then the final item there is Titanic. It's the coolest tanking item in the game. Gives him humongous lifesteal as well as burst lifesteal, which will allow you to survive in a team fight. It's basically like a second Aegis. Alright, so taking a look at comparing these builds down here, you can take a look at this chart. EHP, obviously the max tank build is way higher, and then the max DPS build is still higher than the max move speed build. DPS, obviously max DPS build is the highest there. It's because the Mantle Illusions give you lots of damage. Move speed build, obviously, has the most move speed. And then in terms of mana, your max DPS build has the most because it's got the Manta style. And then on your max move speed build, you've got more mana because you've got that drum in your mid-game lineup. So both of those have some mana. And then your tank build, you might have some mana problems, but you'll be tanky as hell. So it doesn't matter. Alright, so that is the guide to Chaos Knight's item build. Thanks for watching, guys. From all of that stuff, you ought to be able to figure out what you want to do in games and how you want to build your Chaos Knight. Everyone builds it differently, and it depends on play style, and also depends on what heroes you're against. So I hope this is enough information to help you guys make knowledgeable decisions about what items to purchase in game. So yeah, I will go ahead and continue to make some more of these videos. So thank you for watching this one. If you guys have any topic that you want me to discuss in a later video, go ahead and post it in the comments, and I'll be happy to work on it. I'll also try in some of the later videos to maybe get some guests in to talk about some stuff with me, and it should be some fun. Have fun with this stuff, right? Dota's fun. It's a game. Have fun with it. All right. And yeah, so that's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it improves your game a little bit. So like and subscribe to keep up with all of the cool stuff that I'll keep posting, more of these guides, and play Dota. Have fun. Alright guys, this is Kingdom signing out.